My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 3 years. I felt he treated me very well up until recently. He was in a previous marriage before we met, and his ex-wife had an affair. He told me he was over it. We moved in together a few months ago and have been having major adjustment issues. On top of that, about a month ago, I was in a very bad car accident when a truck ran a red light and T-boned into me, totaling my car and landing me in the hospital for a bit. I had a concussion, tons of cuts and bruises, and extreme shoulder, neck, and back pain, which is still an issue. My boyfriend was very supportive the first 2 weeks after it happened, and I appreciated it. Then we had a fight one night, a couple of weeks ago, about me sleeping in the other bedroom since my insomnia has been so bad since the crash. He acted like I was doing it because I wanted space or something, but it was purely because of my insomnia and how difficult it is for me to get comfortable post-accident with the back pain and the fact that he moves a lot in his sleep. I told him my health was non-negotiable and that he cannot take it personally, that I need to focus on my health and rest right now. I think he was triggered because when things were bad in his marriage, they slept in different beds. I felt he was overreacting, but understood. About a week later, I still had a lot of soreness and pain, but was getting a bit better. So we went out to dinner, and afterward, he asked if we could spend some time in the bedroom together. I hesitated because I wasn't sure if having intimacy was a good idea because of the soreness. He got pouty and closed off like he does sometimes when I reject him. But I still laid with him, and I asked for a massage for my shoulder, hoping maybe I could be up for intimacy after a massage. But he said his hand hurt and just went to sleep. In the morning, he wanted to have intimacy again, but mornings are very hard for me since that's peak soreness, and I tried to explain that, but he wasn't being understanding at all. He went off and said once a week for intimacy is not enough for him, and that this has been going on even before the accident, and that he feels unloved when I reject him. I explained again that my body is not well, so I'm not going to be up for intimacy as much at this time, and that generally I believe intimacy once a week is average for most working adults. Also, we had intimacy on a weekly basis after the accident too, so nothing changed, and I didn't understand his frustration. I said it's not like I stop having intimacy with you for months at a time. He said something to the effect of, "That's what's going to happen soon anyways." I wasn't sure why he'd say that, because that has never been the case ever. The only reason I can think he'd believe that is because that was what his ex-wife did to him towards the end of his marriage. After cooling off, we had a long talk, and I told him things need to change immediately. He needs to be patient when I recover, not get pouty and try to guilt me into intimacy, and never to compare the trauma he suffered in his last relationship to me and project it onto our relationship, especially during a fight and while I'm recovering, as it adds unnecessary pressure and feels like he blames me for things that have nothing to do with our relationship. I set clear and strong boundaries, and I told him before to never compare me to his ex ever again. He apologized, felt bad, and said he wanted to do better. Over the next week, he seemed to be putting in more effort. I think there was still some resentment, possibly left over, because some of the things he did were slightly irritating me, and I just felt very disrespected and misunderstood overall. Then when driving with him, which I had anxiety about due to post-traumatic stress disorder from the accident, he ran a stop sign. I had a panic attack and told him he needed to pay more attention. He got upset, and we went back to having tension again. I suggested that maybe we should get couples counseling because our communication is not healthy, and he agreed, but he was a bit hesitant. I said I would look for a therapist in the morning. This morning, we were cuddling, and I had a nightmare about us, so maybe I was feeling a bit distant and sad this morning about it. Maybe he sensed that because he said how anxious he was feeling and how his stomach was hurting this morning. Then he said he used to have to wake up like this every day in the past. I asked him if he meant during his marriage because he never shared tulling. I made him feel like that before. He didn't give a straight answer, so I asked him again directly, and he sort of admitted that's what he meant. I told him that he was breaking my boundary by bringing up how he felt from his past relationship and comparing it to us, which I laid out clearly less than a week ago. Then he tried to gaslight me and say I was the one that said it was about his marriage and brought it up, but he then admitted that that's exactly what he was referring to. How can he not respect the boundaries I've set and break them in less than a week after agreeing how toxic it is to compare our relationship to his past marriage? Then try to deny it as if that's not what he was doing. If he's so certain I'm going to end up like his ex, who cheated and lied and was manipulative according to him, then why are we even trying? I do not at all treat him like his ex treated him. Yet during arguments, he takes out his past grievances on our relationship. I've lost so much trust in him in the last few weeks, and I'm already in so much pain from my concussion and other accident injuries, as well as post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms from the crash, that I just don't have the mental or emotional energy to handle this right now. Luckily, I am talking to a therapist finally later, and I'm in group therapy to address my driving anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder. But I'm just so concerned because besides the first 2 weeks after my accident, he's been extremely selfish and unsupportive when I need support now more than ever. I have so many medical bills and job stress on top of everything else. I feel like he takes me for granted, blames me for things his ex did, and doesn't respect me sexually or in terms of boundaries. I was planning to search for couples counselors and work on this with him, but I'm just tired. It's going to be a lot of effort to fix this, and he needs to do a lot of his own work in therapy to resolve resentment from his past. He has had a therapist since the divorce, but obviously he has not worked through this enough. We just moved in together, and I just don't have the physical or mental energy to move out and go through a breakup. I'm just so upset and overwhelmed with everything and just don't know what to do at this point. Is it worth going to couples counseling? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You've mentioned boundaries multiple times in this post. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. A boundary isn't, here is this rule I made for someone else to follow. It's, this is a hard line in the sand. If you do X, I will follow with Y consequence, including but not limited to removing myself from the conversation, situation, relationship. He's breaking all your self-described boundaries, but what are you doing about it? If you're not prepared to have action as collateral, your boundaries are little more than hopeful suggestions. Comment 2. Do you actually want to stay with him if you are being honest with yourself? From your post, it sounds like it is going to be a major uphill battle to get to a place of harmony. He has clearly had his resentment triggered by what he has perceived as rejection, and you cannot unhear the things he has said to you. Moving in together is stressful, and your injuries have obviously exacerbated that. But think about whether he was acting like this before the accident. Now, for the update. A week after the last argument, I decided to go to my parents' house for the weekend to clear my head. Honestly, I just needed a break from everything. I was so drained from trying to fix things that felt completely broken, and I thought maybe being around my family would give me some clarity or at least a distraction. My mom was really excited to see me, and my dad was happy I was home too. He immediately started talking about sports, which honestly felt like a relief. Just the usual stuff, nothing heavy. My parents had planned a family dinner to celebrate my mom's birthday. I really enjoyed my time with them that day. They're just amazing people. They always make me feel safe and loved. The boyfriend was initially invited, but decided to stay home, saying he needed time to think. Yeah, time to think. It was just his way of saying he wanted space, which I was fine with. I didn't push it. Don't get me wrong, I do care about his feelings, but at that point, I just didn't have the energy to deal with him. During dinner, the conversation turned to relationships when my dad asked Jake and Rachel about their plans for the baby. My sister and her husband are expecting, so it made sense that it came up. My parents asked if I and my boyfriend had any plans for the future, prompting me to awkwardly change the subject. I could feel the tension, but I just wasn't in the mood to discuss anything regarding my relationship. So I just asked my dad about his fishing trip instead. After dinner, My mom suggested we play a board game, but I felt distracted and couldn't focus. Honestly, my mind was all over the place. While playing, my younger sister Kate mentioned how happy she was in her relationship, which made me feel isolated. I mean, of course she is. They just got married. I'm happy for her, but it's hard not to feel bitter when your relationship feels like it's falling apart. I stepped outside for fresh air, needing a moment away from the lively atmosphere. I know my family was just trying to be happy and celebrate my mom's birthday, but I felt like I was crashing their party. I got a text from my boyfriend asking how the dinner was going. I replied with a simple, "Fine," but he quickly followed up with a question about our relationship status. That's when the building tension became too much. We started getting into it through text, with him asking if I was happy with him. I didn't want to do this over text, but here we were. Once I returned inside, the family was discussing vacation plans, which highlighted my current situation. My mom mentioned a trip to the beach, and everyone started planning, leaving me feeling left out. It just felt like rubbing it in, you know? Everyone else is enjoying life, and I'm just here trying not to drown in my own problems. I excused myself to go to the bathroom, needing a moment to process everything. While in the bathroom, I overheard Kate and my mom talking about my relationship struggles. Kate suggested that my boyfriend didn't understand my needs and that maybe we weren't meant to be. I didn't hear everything they said, but that part made me feel like I was going to be sick. Who was she to say that? She just got married. How could she even know what I was going through? After dinner, I called my boyfriend to discuss the text exchange. He seemed agitated on the phone and brought up how he felt abandoned during my recovery. I get that he felt that way, but I had my own stuff to deal with. The conversation escalated, and he accused me of shutting him out completely. I mean, I was trying to explain my perspective, but he was just cutting me off repeatedly. Super frustrating. At that point, I was over it and hung up, feeling even more frustrated. The next day, I returned home and found a package at my doorstep. Inside was a photo album he created with memories from our relationship. It was sweet, but I just didn't know if that was enough to fix things. Later, he came over to discuss things, bringing the album with him. He apologized for his behavior, but immediately shifted to discussing my need for intimacy. We ended up arguing again, with him saying he didn't know how much longer he could wait. Then he stormed out, saying he couldn't handle being treated this way anymore. I didn't stop him. I just let him go. The following week, I got a message from him saying he was done and moving on. I was shocked. Like, what? I tried to reach out, but he ignored my calls and messages. A few days later, I learned from Jake that my boyfriend was seeing someone new. That hurt. It just felt like a slap in the face. Edit. After everything, I realized I needed to focus on myself. I started therapy and reconnected with old friends. My boyfriend's new relationship is still tough to see, but I'm trying to move on. My family has been supportive, and my sister even apologized for her earlier comments. It's a healing journey for sure. Am I the idiot for blocking my sister for 5 years and then reconnecting at a family wedding? I am a 31-year-old female, and I am the youngest of 4 siblings with quite large age gaps. I was always closest to my eldest sister, who is 50 years old, until about 5 years ago when I cut her out of my life. For context, our middle sister, who is 45 years old, is severely mentally ill and a drug addict, and has taken up the majority of our parents' time and resources for around 20 to 25 years. My father is only my biological father. He is my sibling's stepfather. He has been with my mother for approximately 36 years, so he has had a large role in raising them and is a father figure with a generally close and positive relationship with my siblings. My sibling's father died in 1997. 5 years ago, my eldest sister had an argument with our mother that escalated, and I think a lot of very hurtful things were said on both sides. She stopped speaking with our parents. I believe the argument brought up some resentment my sister has about our mother divorcing her father. I am not aware of the details of what was said. I believe I was mentioned, as my sister has previously expressed some resentment towards me for perceived preferential treatment. I've tried to look at this objectively, and I don't believe that to be accurate, but it's how she feels. Over the next few months, she gradually became more distant from me, and after a while, I realized it had been 3 to 4 months since we had spoken. I tried calling and messaging a few times and didn't get a response. She has a history of getting quite worked up and sending me a barrage of mean text messages, and I was going through a difficult time at the time. COVID lockdowns and a breakup, and just didn't have the emotional bandwidth to cope with it. So I blocked her number and her social media accounts. I felt guilty at the time and felt like I should have just had it out with her or explained how I was feeling, but I am extremely averse to confrontation and just didn't feel able to. My mother has always encouraged me to get in touch with her and have a relationship, as their issues have nothing to do with me, and she is the only sister I am really able to have a relationship with. Our brother, who is 40 years old, has also stayed in touch with her. Fast forward 5 years, and I saw her at a family wedding over the weekend. We spoke, agreed to get in touch, and she messaged me the following day. She expressed that she missed me and was sorry for whatever she did that made me feel like I had to cut her off. I apologized for my absence, said I wished I could offer her an explanation for staying away so long, but I couldn't, and that I was glad we were going to be speaking again. She hasn't responded after that message, which was sent around 24 hours ago. I've been extremely emotional for the last few days. This has brought up a lot of buried emotions for me, and I'm sure for her as well. I feel like I owe her an explanation, but I don't want to further upset her or make her feel bad. I just want my sister back, but I am also aware I can't just magically erase the last 5 years. Any advice on how to navigate this situation would be appreciated. I don't feel comfortable talking to my parents about it, given their falling out with her. And while my partner is supportive of whatever I decide to do, he doesn't know my sister. All my close friends come from less dysfunctional families, so they don't really understand it either. Now, for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now, for the update. My sister and I are slowly fixing our relationship after years of not talking, and I hope it keeps getting better. A couple of days after the wedding, my sister texted me asking if we could talk. I was super emotional, but I just replied with a yes. We decided to meet up at this local Italian restaurant that our family used to go to a lot. It was a nostalgic but weird choice, to say the least. When she walked in, she looked super nervous, and honestly, so was I. We exchanged these awkward greetings like we barely knew each other. Just a few years ago, we would have been hugging and chatting like old friends. We started with small talk, discussing the wedding, which was a safe topic. But then it got real fast. We both knew we had some stuff to sort out, and there was no avoiding it. She told me she regretted the years of silence and really wanted to understand what had happened between us. I mean, I was feeling the same way. Then she finally brought up the main issue, saying that our mother's behavior during the argument had caused her to pull away. I was surprised at first, but then it made sense. I realized she finally understood our mother was the root of the conflict, at least for me. We started talking about the family dynamics, and I mentioned how our other siblings felt distant too. I could tell that she hadn't really been in touch with them, and it was sort of sad but not surprising. She revealed that she had been in therapy and was working on herself, which honestly made me feel so much better. I was glad to hear she was taking steps to understand and heal. We also discussed this family dinner that was planned for next month at our parents' house, and my stomach dropped. Just the thought of it made me anxious. Out of nowhere, she suggested we go together to show some unity, and I was like, okay, I guess. So fast forward a few days later, my sister called me again, asking if I'd seen our mother's latest social media post. I hadn't seen it, but I checked it out and found this post celebrating our other sister's birthday. The comments from our mom were so over-the-top sentimental, like she was trying to win a Mother of the Year award or something. My sister mentioned she felt really hurt that our mom hadn't reached out directly to her in years. I completely agreed. Our mom always played favorites, and it was annoying to see her act like this. We both felt so frustrated, but we were determined to address these issues at the upcoming dinner. The day of the dinner came, and everyone was trying to act like nothing was wrong. It was so awkward. During dinner, our dad brought up this family vacation we had taken years ago and wanted to talk about it. But then, our mom just had to ruin the moment. She interrupted and started criticizing my sister's life choices in front of everyone. I was shocked. My sister stood up and confronted her. It was a heated exchange, and honestly, I was just sitting there, stunned. All of us were quiet as our mom tried to deflect blame, acting like she was the victim. My sister just laid it out there, saying she felt neglected and pushed away by our mom. Our dad tried to be the peacemaker, but he ended up making it worse by siding with our mom. I could see that our younger sister, Kate, was really upset and eventually left the table. The whole thing was a mess. After all of this, my sister decided to leave the dinner early. She said she needed some space after the confrontation. I followed her outside, and we ended up having this heated discussion about our family's dynamics. I was angry, and I could tell she was too. The next day, she texted me, suggesting we plan a weekend getaway to reconnect. I was so relieved that she wanted to keep working on our relationship. We settled on a cabin in the mountains, hoping for a fresh start away from all the family drama. The trip turned out to be a real turning point for us. We shared stories, laughed, cried, and just opened up to each other. I think we both needed that so badly. We agreed to keep our lines of communication open and planned regular catch-ups, no matter how crazy life got. I'm hopeful that we're on the path to healing and that our relationship will only get stronger from here. To answer a few questions, my sister and I had our first phone call, then met up at a restaurant to talk. We agreed to attend a family dinner, which turned into a confrontation. Am I the idiot for telling my girlfriend's overbearing mother to back off and let me be a father? For starters, my girlfriend required a cesarean section, so she has been depending on her mother and me mostly to handle things, but her mom is using this as a weapon. The bond that a mother should have with her newborn is not present right now, and I have noticed my girlfriend giving me jealous looks whenever I handle our son. She is always fussing whenever I do anything with the baby and wants me to just basically be an errand boy. It's like they treat me as if I am not worthy of being a new dad. Her mother has told me that I am a dictator because I made plans for how we are going to handle the baby financially. She has labeled me as just a baby father. I have been told that my girlfriend is not my responsibility at all and that I need to back off from talking to her about things. Also, the baby is suffering from colic, and it is my fault because I took my girlfriend out too many times to eat and have fun while she was pregnant. 50% of the time, her mom handles the baby, 30% I handle the baby, and the remaining 20% my girlfriend does, mainly because I keep giving her the baby to handle when her mom isn't around. I have tried to get my girlfriend to bond more with our son, but because she keeps letting her mom tell her things like, "You need to rest and not worry about the baby," or "You're going to hurt yourself and end up back in the hospital if you keep trying to handle him so much," my girlfriend has really become a puppet. I have stated that I want to take our son to my place, but her mother jumped in and said, "No mother wants to be away from their child for the first 6 months, so no, you can't take him." Since that moment, my girlfriend has kept echoing the same thing. She is not really comfortable at my place anymore because her mom has conditioned her mind against going anywhere aside from the doctor's office. My intentions are to marry her and move somewhere better, but right now it feels like I am dating her and her mother. Everything we discussed before the baby arrived has been thrown out the window. All we do now is follow whatever her mom says. Now for an update. Since my last Reddit post, I have changed my approach using the advice I received, going above and beyond every day, but it is just not enough. I really try not to stress my girlfriend out, so a lot of the events that have happened over the past few weeks, I have held back my tongue. We have all had multiple sit-downs already, but to me, those have been pointless because her mother still has that "it's either my way or the highway" approach, and my girlfriend is still not advocating for herself. I believe she is suffering more and more from postpartum depression. What can I do in this situation? How can I improve the situation? Now, for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now, for the update, I'm back with another update on the mess that is my life. It's been just over 2 days since the last update, and the situation has escalated a ton. So on Saturday, I went to a family dinner at my girlfriend's house for her birthday. Her mom planned this big celebration and invited a bunch of relatives and family friends. Now, I'm not a huge fan of these kinds of things, but I figured I'd deal with it for my girlfriend. During dinner, her mom insisted on serving the baby first, and when I tried to help, she just dismissed my attempts. I noticed that my girlfriend barely held the baby. Like, I get it, she's recovering from a C-section, but her mom did most of the caring. I remember when I tried to take a family photo, her mom just jumped in and insisted on positioning everyone. It was just so annoying. After dinner, I suggested that my girlfriend and I take the baby for a walk to bond, but she declined. She said she wanted to spend time with her mom. That was a low blow. A few days later, I overheard a conversation between my girlfriend and her mom. They were talking about how the baby needed more grandmother time, and her mom said I wasn't necessary. I don't know what to make of that, but I didn't like it. The following weekend, there was a big Easter gathering planned, and I was anxious about it. At the Easter dinner, her mom took control again, making decisions about the baby's food and schedule. I tried to bring up this parenting plan that I had in mind, but her mom just interrupted me and dismissed my ideas. It felt like I was talking to a wall. Even worse, I noticed that my girlfriend didn't defend me during the dinner discussions, which just hurt. I tried to engage in a lighthearted conversation, but honestly, I felt like an outsider. Later that evening, I got a text from my girlfriend's sister. She expressed concern about our relationship. She mentioned that their mom was worried about how I was taking charge of the baby. I can't even explain how frustrated I was getting at this point. I decided to take a break and went for a drive to clear my head. When I got back, I found the baby was asleep, and my girlfriend was sitting alone in the living room. We didn't talk much that night. The next day, I got a call from my own mom. She was worried about the situation, especially after I described the tension. During a family barbecue the following weekend, I tried to assert myself more. I brought up the idea of taking the baby for a day trip, but my girlfriend looked visibly upset when I did. Her mom jumped right in, saying the baby was too young for outings, which just added to my frustration. After the barbecue, I found out that my girlfriend had been speaking with her mom about moving in together. I confronted her about it, and she said it was what's best for the baby. I don't even know what to say anymore. This whole thing is just so messed up. Edit. The situation reached a breaking point when I found out that my girlfriend and her mom had been planning to move in together without involving me in the conversation. I expressed my feelings about this to my girlfriend, and it led to a big fight. She accused me of being controlling and said that I didn't have any say in where they lived because I wasn't her husband. I felt so hurt and betrayed because I had always planned to marry her and live together as a family. After this argument, I decided to give her some space. When I returned to my house, my mom noticed the tension between us and asked what was going on. I explained everything, and she suggested that I give my girlfriend a little space to think things through on her own. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.